Our final speaker for the day is not only a football legend and a Long Island celebrity, he's also a special member of the Suffolk County Sheriff's Office family. Perry Williams is a former New York Giant and two-time Super Bowl champion. Drafted out of North Carolina State University, he played 146 games for the Giants from 1984 to 1993 and was an integral part of two Super Bowl champion teams. At North Carolina State, Mr. Williams was a track star, holding the 55-meter indoor track record in 1983. In March of this year, Perry was appointed the title of Special Deputy by Sheriff Toulon and teamed up with the Sheriff's Office to work with local youth to help them reach their dreams by encouraging them to work and study hard. Perry Williams is currently the Director of Sports Management at Long Island University's C.W. Post campus, where he continues to inspire young and old athletes alike. Please help me in welcome Super Bowl champion Perry Williams.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate that introduction. That was a nice introduction. For a minute, I thought he was talking about somebody else. But nevertheless, it is a place to be. I know it's been a long day. I'm not going to hold you long. I know you're about ready to rock and roll and go on about your merry way, but I just got a couple of things I want to say to you and talk to you about today. And it's a pleasure for me to be here and bringing you greetings from Long Island University. But our president, Kimberly Klein, is our president right at this moment. Also, greetings from the Suffolk County Sheriff Department, where they finally made me a special deputy sheriff. I feel pretty good now. Finally made it. I finally got in there. As many of you may know or may not know, my degree is in criminal justice. I had a degree in criminal justice, and my undergraduate program is also my graduate program of public administration. But it's been a great journey for me. It's been a great ride. It's been a great opportunity to meet men and women like yourselves. I salute each and every one of you. I tip my hat to all of you that's involved in the law enforcement. Some people would say, Perry Williams, you're a biased guy because you involved in that criminal justice and majored in that yourself in school. And I say, yes, I am. It's about loving one another, helping one another, and being together. Am I my brother's keeper? Am I my sister's keeper? And that's what this stuff is all about. Forget, I talk about football. That's easy to talk about football. Let's talk about life a little bit, how important life is. Yeah, it's a parallel there for law enforcement in the corporate world, the business Wall Street world with the sports world. The ultimate goal is to what? To be successful, to win. And life is about trying to be successful and trying to be a winner. Winners, to me, are ordinary people with extraordinary determination. I come from a background, as many of you may know, may not know, I've read about it, go on this social media stuff now, they tell everything about your life now, but I can tell you, I'm this old southern boy from North Carolina who by the grace of God, gave me the energy and the wisdom and the power to come up to New York City by way of Raleigh, North Carolina through NC State. What a great experience it was to be here in the New York metropolitan area. Someone once said to me, if you can make it in New York City playing sports, you can make it anywhere. I believe that. I was able to have a lot of success. Why did we have success in the world of sports that I was engaged in? Because we believed in one another. Believed that we could do it. Am I my brother's keeper? That's the most important thing to me. Those are my brothers at that time. I don't have brothers from my family or nothing like that. My mom had one child, and that was me. Unfortunately, she had what the ladies would know in the medical world, a stillbirth. I would have had a sister, but she didn't make it. So all these years, I was around all these men with the winning attitude, the winning edge. I don't have to name them. You know who they are. Lawrence Taylor, Phil Simms, Harry Corson, Carl Banks, Pepper Johnson, Mark Collins, Mark Bavaro, I can go on, Joe Morris, O.J. Anderson, I can go on and on. All these men knew what it took to be a champion. And that's what it's all about. What is leadership? What is leadership? I've read somewhere, I Googled it up, to get a person or individuals to buy into one's concept. What's the concept? You all know this. It's a notion, it's an idea. Leadership. What is a good leader? To me, a leader is a person who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. Knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. That's what a good leader is to me, the way I see it. It's about we. It's about team. Teamwork makes the dream work. Doesn't matter what kind of industry that you may be engaged in. Law enforcement, business, higher education, or just sports in general. It's about being together. It's about loving one another. I think Eleanor Roosevelt said it best. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of the dream. What's your dream? So today's topic a little bit, I guess it would be the theme for me, is who will I be? Who will you be? I realized by coming here today that your destiny is tied up with my destiny. We got to care about one another, got to help one another, got to love one another. That's important to me. To love and care about each other. I am disenchanted, I will say that, of how the society is going about with this law enforcement agency stuff. You're people that I always tell young men and young women and people in general, they are people too. They got feelings too. They got families too. I understand the thing, you're going to have the good and the bad somewhere in there. But the good will outweigh the bad, the way I see it. You got knuckleheads in playing ball, pro ball. They don't want to do the right thing. They want to go their own direction. They got their own agenda. But it's called teamwork. You be willing to work together, willing to sacrifice, willing to do the little things. Willing to do the little things. Tell you a little quick story. I'm going to loosen you up a little bit for a minute. It's called the toilet bowl story. When I was 11 years old, growing up in a little town called Hamlet, North Carolina, outside of Charlotte, outside of Raleigh, by Pinehurst, if you go into the golf world, I lived the next town over. I used to tell my mother and my grandmother that one day I was going to be somebody. You see, you got to understand, from my perspective here, I come from a broken home. My mother and father divorced when I was 3 years old. So my grandmother, my mother's mother, stepped in to help my mother raise me. So I used to tell them, Mama, Grandma, one day I'm going to be somebody. I'm going to go make it happen. I'm going to go to school, try to get my grades right, make sure, get a scholarship. Didn't know what college I was going to go to. And then from there, I was going to go in the NFL and play pro football. Didn't know what team I was going to play for, but I was going to play pro football and even play in the Super Bowl. And I remember distinctly, my mother and my grandmother looked at one another, they rolled their eyes around and just looking at this, and my grandmother said to my mother, said, you hear this boy talking about he's going to play pro football and go to college and all that good stuff. That's great. Then go play pro football, be on TV and be in the NFL and talking about playing in the Super Bowl. So the only kind of Super Bowl he probably end up playing in is a toilet bowl. Yeah, that's, a lot of people laughed on that when I said that. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? 14 years later, I was in my first Super Bowl. I refused to give in. I had a vision, and I stuck with it. And I remember 14 years later, I played in my first Super Bowl, Pasadena, California, the Rose Bowl, against the great John Elway and the Denver Broncos, 1987. And what a game that was going to end up to be. And I remember the night before the game, I called back to North Carolina. Unfortunately, my grandmother couldn't make it with the rest of my family from Carolina to Pasadena to L.A. And we engaged in conversation that night, that Saturday night. As you all know, they play on Sundays, the Super Bowls. And we talked, and we had engaged in conversation, my grandmother and I. Say, yeah, you did it. You there. You make sure you kick their butts tomorrow. I said, yes, ma'am, I'll be ready to go. And then before we hung up the phone that particular night, that Saturday night, I said, hey, Mama. She said, yeah, what is it? I said, what you think about that toilet bowl kid now? So what is the moral of the story, ladies and gentlemen? Believing is achieving. You believe that you could achieve. That's where you are at, or sitting where you are today. Whatever your thoughts were, whatever your dreams were, you believed it many years ago. So here it is. Here you are. The moment of truth. Here it is. It's all in the mind. I tell young men and young women this all the time, especially in my classes where I teach at the university in Long Island here, and the Brookville, and the Brooklyn campus over in New York as well. It's in the mind. It's mind over matter. It's the will. Your will will always supersede your skill. It's willpower. And that's what's important, to have the will, to never give up, to never quit, to never say I could die mentality. Who saw about that? 1993, we're going back in time a little bit. We're going to go archive a little bit. It was a guy named Jim Valvano, a great motivational speaker, great coach from NC State basketball, won the national championship. And before he died, he gave it one of the stirring speeches that I've ever heard on the ESPY Awards, 1993. Never give up. That was the title. I had the great honor and privilege to be around Coach Valvano, and one would say, well, how did that work? You played football, you ran track. He was a basketball coach. Tell you another little quick story. 1982, I was in Raleigh, North Carolina State campus, walking down the hill, taking a class in the summertime, taking a class so I can get ahead and make sure I was ready to go to the football season. A couple classes up, saw a car go by me, little Mustang, convertible, never forget it. And I realized when it went past me, it was Coach Valvano. He went up the road, he did a 360 in the highway. I know you guys will give a ticket if you do that now. 360 in the highway, he came back. He said, are you Perry Williams? I said, yes, sir. He said, I want you to come to my basketball camp tomorrow. I said, Coach, I'm not a basketball player. He said, I know that. I said, you got Thurl Bailey, All-American, and went to Utah Jazz. You got Dirk Wittenberg. You got Cindy Lowe. You got all these. And the guy from New York, Lorenzo Charles. I said, you got all these superstars. He said, I want you to come. And so the next day, I went there. And he introduced me to about 200, maybe 200, 250 little basketball campers at his camp in NC State. And he talked for a minute. He said, I want you to, he told the young men, I want you to look at this guy. I'm going to tell you his name. He said, this guy's name is Perry Williams, and he's going to be a hell of a football player in the NFL one day. He has what it takes. And that's all they said. I didn't even talk. I thought I was going to have to talk, and I didn't have to talk. But that's when it started for me. That's when I realized people was watching me. The coach, it wasn't even a football coach, wasn't a track and field coach, baseball, whatever, a basketball coach. Somebody noticed it, and he saw it in me. He implanted that in my mind. You can be whatever you want to be. He reinforced it. You can do it. Go for it. And when he found out I got drafted by the Giants, after that year went through the season, I got drafted by the New York Football Giants. He went ballistic because he was from New York, as you know, Jim Valvano. And we started out on a great little venture together. Coach Valvano was the one who introduced me to doing a lot of motivational speaking. He was the one who got me started. He called me once. He called me Champ. Said, hey, Champ, I want you to speak with me down in Downtown Athletic Club down in New York one time. I said, okay, Coach. I had been playing for several years. I had won my first Super Bowl at that time. And he said, well, I want you to come down and get on the dais with me. I want to talk, and you talk, and then I'll come in and I'll be the closer. I said, sounds good, Coach. So I got up there that particular day, and I did my little spiel. And I did this and I did that with him. And then at the end, gave me a little standing ovation, a little applause, and he came up. He said, I want to show you guys something. I want to say something, ladies and gentlemen. See that guy right there, Perry Williams, when he was at NC State, had shorts and T-shirt and little Chuck Taylor sneakers on. Now look at him wearing Italian-made suits and Italian shoes. Look at him now, Maron. This guy here, he made it. Oh, Maron. Now look at him. Look at him. Oh, Maron. But the thing is, he was an enforcer for me. He encouraged me, not only my coaches and the people that I went through in life. My high school coach was instrumental in my life. My college coach was a guy named Pete Carroll, the coach for the Seattle Seahawks. He was my college coach, my defensive coordinator. And I can go on and on. Obviously, when I got to New York, I had the big tuna. I had Bill Parcells my first 8 years. I had Bill Belichick for 8 years. I'm a defensive coordinator. I had Tom Coughlin, Romeo Cornell, you name Charlie Weiss, you name them, I had them on my staff. And why do you think we had success? Because not only as the coach and not only as players, we all believed in one another. We all gave for one another. Sacrifice, commitment, dedication, leadership. Very important. Leadership. What's the difference between being a leader and being a manager, managerial position, management? Well, a leader has the ability to get people to buy into his concept or her concepts. Management, you delegate. You tell them what to do. You do a little this. But what a true leader do, ladies and gentlemen, the way I see it, they'll roll up the sleeve. They'll jump in the foxhole. No matter how hard it is, how tough it is, I'm going to get in the foxhole with you. That's what leadership is all about to me. 3 other elements that I talk about. Communication. You must communicate. You must be able to communicate. I tell the student, a lot of students, and this is collegiate level, college level, you got to know how to communicate. You got to develop your soft skills. You got to make sure that you have people skills, communication skills. Talk to people. Do the right thing. And I know you guys and ladies in the law enforcement, you're all over throughout this metro area doing what you do every day. But people take a notice of what you do. I noticed that not only in the sports arena, but in the law enforcement. You know, they take notice how officers, men and women, or athletes, doesn't matter, or movie stars, or music entertainers, how they carry themselves. I tell young men and young boys and girls all the time, govern yourself accordingly because you never know who's watching. Try to do the right thing. I took pride in what I did for all those years as an athlete, a former athlete, a has-been now, used to be, once upon a time guy now, but it's okay. Because I've transformed myself into something bigger and better. It's about paying it forward. It's about giving back. I've wore out so many pairs of shoes, I can't begin to tell you how many. I've traveled all over the United States, in the 40 major cities in the last 30 years. And I've covered over 3 million kids. Talking to kids, and they're going to encourage them. You can do it. Look at my example, telling my testimony, telling my story. Humble beginnings, didn't have much. Mother worked in the mill. Most money my mother ever made was $11,000. That's before taxes. Trying to make ends meet. Grandmother was a maid, house cleaner. But I'm not ashamed of that, to say it, because we made it. You hear I said we. I made it, they made it. It's about coming together. It's about loving one another. It's about doing the little things, the sacrifice, the commitment. That's what's important to me. Yes, I don't want to be just individualistically doing my own thing. That ain't what I'm all about. I'm about team building. I'm about teamwork. I'm about playing big, winning together. Because Lawrence Taylor got the same kind of Super Bowl ring that I got. He don't have no more diamonds and no more gold on his ring than I got. Only difference is he got Lawrence Taylor written on his, mine is Perry Williams. He got 2, I got 2. It's about teamwork. I tell people the role, and talk about team a little bit, Lawrence Taylor was the greatest football player I ever saw. And many would say that arguably the greatest that ever played the game. No doubt about it. Played with it for 11 years. I didn't really play my first year. For my last 10 years, I was right beside the guy. One of the greatest. But guess what? He couldn't cover no wide receivers. That was my job. You see? He could rush the man. He could rush the quarterback like no tomorrow. But don't ask him to cover nobody. He couldn't even cover his own shadow. So we weren't going to worry about that. That's why we had Phil Simms. Phil Simms, hey, I can't throw no football. I can throw a little ball, football or whatever. I'm not no Phil Simms or Jeff Hostetler. That was my quarterbacks back then. You throw the ball. Don't worry about it. I play on defense. I do what I got to do. I'll be the gatekeeper. If they get past that defensive line with Leonard Marsh and George Morton, Harry Carson, and LT, all those boys, Pepper Johnson, all those boys, I was the gatekeeper. I was sitting back there waiting. I was waiting on them to break the loose, to go get them. And that's the thing about what I talk about a lot of times in the organization programs, talking about leadership. Everybody got a role. What is your R-O-L-E? Role. What is that? Well, we all know, you all know what that is. You got a specific job that you must have. You got a task that you must work with. Do it at the best of your ability. Try to be the best at your role. Don't worry about what the management up top a little further is doing. Do your job. Even if you watch football, you ever heard Bill Belichick? Do your job. And everything else will come together. And as long as everybody understand that, one another, and realize that, then you got a chance to be successful in any field. As I said again, yeah, I'm biased. Yes, I want to see law enforcement. I know a lot of men and women in law enforcement. FBI agents, Secret Service, I know a lot of them. Sheriff's Department, Police Department, State Patrol, all of them. I always give them a word of encouragement. Be safe. Keep your head on the swivel. You know, we got some craziness going on in society. I'm not naive. I might be from the South, but I ain't that dumb, you know. I was born that night, but not last night. I'm not Willie off the pick-a-boat, boo-boo the fool. So we realize what we're dealing with. We realize what we're dealing with. And that's the thing about leadership. What's so great about teamwork. That's so great about coming in a common goal and cause to do something positive and do something great. That's important. I think Timothy both said it best also. You know, evil people get rich for the moment, but a good person rewards will last forever. Winston Churchill, you make a living by what you get, but you make a life by what you give. What's the commitment? Who will I be? What is your commitment? What's going to be your life's work? I know a lot of you is probably getting ready to retire maybe, or still in the midst of your middle of your careers. But I, as a person who doesn't even live in the state of New York, I'm just up here doing a lot of my work, but I'm a big, advocate for you. I'm a big advocate for all law enforcement across this country. Because I know where many of you go through. I know a lot of people. And I can sympathize and empathize. You're talking about empathy. You're talking about affection. You're talking about you're all as humans. You're not robotic. So I encourage men and women of your stature all the time in various places I go to keep on, just keep it on. Try to be the best as you can possibly be. And I try to encourage and tell these young people, especially, understand about life skills. Understand about respect. Now, you're going around there, you're saying all these negative things, and, stuff is not, fitting to say to these law enforcement officers, men and women. What you think they're going to say? They're going to come back at you. So you should, and I try to teach these young people, have respect. That's the one thing that I had growing up. The first thing that I was taught by my mother and my grandmother, you learn how to respect people. You respect the law. You respect everybody. Respect. Do the right thing. And I hear some of these stories about the young generation, 21st century. Hey, I want to do what I want to do. Well, it's rules and regulations to everything. You can't just do what you want to do. You got to abide by the rules like everybody else. So my thing, I took pride in all those years. I don't think none of you ever read about me getting arrested and going to jail and doing all this kind of crazy stuff when I was coming along in my time. Do what you're supposed to do. You won't have more likely won't have much problems. How about you trying that? Trying to buck the system. Can't buck the system. We go buck the system. A man and woman got a gun. How you go buck the system? How you go against that? Do what you're supposed to do. Follow the rules and regulations. My grandmother always said, I was kind of modified. I don't want to people think I'm coming down here, saying bad words. But she said, hey, hard head carries a soul behind. Lack of a better word. You're hard head, you're going to carry your soul behind. You know what the other word means. And that's the truth. Do the right thing. So as I said, I'm proud to say I never had no problems. Really had no problems up here. Tried to stay out of trouble. If I got stopped by the police, I tried to be respectful. I didn't never say anything, give them the driver's license registration, do what I supposed to do, and that's it. Going about my marriage 9 times out of 10, hey, go ahead on, Williams. You all right. And now if I try to buck the system, who you think not going to retaliate? You try to buck the system. And they trying to do their jobs. So I understand that. I'm very mindful of that. So I try to teach these young kids this stuff. That's a little challenge for me too, because a lot of them come from dysfunctional backgrounds. Don't have no foundation. Don't have it. And so here I am, beating the pavement, trying to tell them, teach them what the teachers, and I have another thing with teachers. When you go into school, teachers are not there to teach your child or anybody's child about manners and about respect and about discipline and all of that kind of, that's not what they're there for. They teach you math, history, science, and all these other geometry and biology and all of that. That's what these kids go to school, not to teach them the fundamental stuff that they should be taught at home. That's what I work on with these kids. Learn behavior. Understand what you're dealing with and who you're dealing with, and understanding that and doing the right thing and feeling it and doing it effectively. There's two ways to have a winning team or organization or institution or administration. There's two ways that I've come to a conclusion and understanding of. It's to get the people around you better or go get better people. Pretty simple. Whatever administration you come from, whatever area you come from in here today, get the people around you better. You train them, you teach them, you do the thing, you do what you do, the implementation or whatever you're doing to your curriculum, to your program. If they don't want to follow it, then go find somebody else. Because the ones who don't want to follow it, don't want to be a team-oriented, then you're not going to have much success on that. That's important. That's important to me. Because a lot of people don't realize, what you guys and ladies and gentlemen go through. And I can only imagine. But as I said, it's all about having the winning edge. It's all about seeing people being successful together, coming together cohesively as a unit. I tell the young men and young women a lot of times, everybody want to be successful. I had met a man or woman who did not want to be successful. But it's an old saying, that's an old new saying, I would guess they would call it. In order to grind, to shine, you got to take a grind. You got to make the commitment. You got to make that commitment. You got to grind to shine. It's not easy. If it was easy, then everybody be doing it. And I know it's not an easy task to do what you do each and every day. Put on your gun, put on your badge, and put on your uniform, and you can clean your boots up or shoes up or whatever, and hit the pavement every day. Every day. You don't even know if you're coming back home. So, my thing is to give words of encouragement. I heard a gentleman earlier on one of the questions and answers, about religion, about spirituality. I pray for every man and woman every day, even if I don't know them. It's about paying it forward. It's about giving back. What is it for a man and woman to profit the world just to lose your soul? It's easier for a camel to go to the eye of a needle than a rich man or woman to go to heaven. Am I my brother's keeper? I think Martin Luther King said it best. If a man or woman had found something worth life for dying for, but maybe they're not fit to live at all, what's going to be your life's work? Who will I be? Who will I be? I had a hard life, ladies and gentlemen. I can tell you that. It wasn't easy for me. I fought through it, the adversity. I know Sheriff Toulon talked about that, my man. And another thing, so I can clarify all of this, why is Perry Williams down here today? Because I believe in that guy. I hadn't met him in a couple of years, but he got he's the prototypical type of man that's going to get you where you need to go. That's the type of runner that you want to be around. I'm not here because it's no secret, I'm a black man. He's black. Yeah. But I can't vote for him because I'm not a New York resident. As you guys know, I live in North Carolina. But I'm not being an advocate for him because he's a black man. It's not because of that. It's easy. It's because he's the right man to do the job. He's the right guy. And I have a lot of confidence in him. And we're going to hit the road together a little bit. I'm going to do a few things with the sheriff and the sheriff's department, my new teammate. What are my teammates? Raise your hand so I can see you. Suffolk County, raise your hand so I can see you. All right. We're going to do some things. We're going to get it done. We got to get it done. What did Vincent Barner say? A lot of you guys like football. Ladies may like football. Vincent Barner, legendary coach of Green Bay Packers. What did he say? He once said, he said, a man or woman's finest hour is where they have competed in a worthy cause. Well, when they lay flat on their backs, totally exhausted, but knowing that they are victorious. That's what you guys are, young ladies. Totally exhausted. Can't hardly move. Been working night shift, graveyard shift, whatever shift you guys work. But you know you're victorious. You made it another day. And that's what's important. That is what is important. I think I read somewhere Barack Obama, the former president, he said, it's not until you hit yourself up to something that is bigger than yourself that you really, truly realize your true potential. So who will I be? Now, come a long ways, as I said. Come a long ways. When all the naysayers said that Williams, oh, he coming out of North Carolina, he went to NC State, he's coming up here to New York City. Who is this guy? What is he going to do? Yeah, that's the sports world, you know, the media, the propaganda over there, some of those guys. That's okay, though. But the thing is, I proved my actions spoke louder than words. When all the naysayers said I couldn't do it, I silenced them all by my still will. Still will. Your will will always supersede your skill. I proved that I could do it because I wanted it. And I wanted it in the worst way. I had 2 babies to feed. Well, what you mean, Williams? I ain't talking about no little arm babies. I ain't talking about that. 2 women I had to take care of, my mother and my grandmother. I had to feed them. They got to get clothes, got to buy them shoes, got to do all the other women stuff that they need. So the only way I was going to get that, I got to stay focused. Yeah, if you ever gone to a farm, I know you know about this, you're old enough to know about this, the mule, they're working in the field, they put blinders on. I had tunnel vision. I didn't have no nonsense going on around me. I got rid of the nonsense. I wanted to get there. I got 2 mouths to feed behind me. I've already made that ultimate promise, not only to myself, but to them. And we got to get there. I got to make it happen. How bad do you want it, Williams? What's the price you're willing to pay? I was willing to pay the price. I'll give you a quick little story about a little football for a second. Bill Parcells told Phil Simms, our quarterback, one day we had what you call a team meeting, and we had what you call on practice, you have a 7-on-7. That's what you call passing drill. The guys, the quarterback throwing to the receivers or the running backs or the tight end against the DBs, the defensive backs like myself, and the linebackers, 7-on-7. He told him, he said, they want to test my will. He didn't know I heard what he said to Phil Simms. He said, test number 23. See what it made out of. Well, he messed up now. I said, okay. Because he didn't know I was hungry. And so what I mean by that, what I'm talking about, ladies, and you might not even know what I'm talking about, some of the guys into that football world, but he was going to find out if I had that mental toughness, that I had that still will or not. And so what happened was they threw these passes at me. Out of the 25 passes Belichick had set up for our defensive meeting, 22 of them went into my side. Now, you can imagine I was dog tired. I was extremely exhausted, but I wouldn't give up. And out of those 22 passes, the plays that they threw at my side, they went 0 for 22. I didn't let them catch the pass. I was dead tired. But I wasn't going, and they were throwing receivers. One would run a route, then the next one would come up, 2 or 3 of them at a time. Bring it on, because I'm right here. I ain't going nowhere. That's the way it was. And that's the attitude that I have to this day. I'm not saying that I'm Einstein and know all the theories of relativity and all that kind of stuff. I never said I was, Aristotle or anything like that. But I'm a guy from the South who went and did what he said he was going to do. He made it happen. I refused to quit. I refused to give up. And that's why I lasted as long as I did. It's no secret. It's no secret. Because I refused. I would not give up. I would not quit. I got all my teammates, all the guys. I have great utmost respect for all my players and for the New York Giants organization, to the Merrill family, to the Tisch family. I played my last 2 years with the Tisch family when they bought into the team after the second Super Bowl. But there was one thing that my grandmother said, and I kind of end up a little bit. We have a little Q&A because I know you've been here all day. She said, "Son, come here." I said, "Yes, ma'am." I had just got drafted, 1983, July 1983, getting ready to come to the first training camp, the New York Giants. At that time, it was in Pleasantville, New York, Pace University. And so I remember my grandmother saying, "Who's the man who owned that team?" I said, "I don't really know his name, Mama." I said, "I think his name is Willerton Mara, Mr. Mara." At that time, it wasn't the Tisch then, it was the Maras. I said, she said to me, "Well, you do this if you don't do nothing else. If you make sure if you play 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, or 10 years, well, the amount of years you were talking about you want to play, you make sure you get that man an honest day's work. You make sure you give him everything you got every day. Don't cheat him. Do the right thing, son. Keep your nose clean. Do the right thing." And I can honestly say, 11 years later, I was 1983. When my grandmother passed in 1988, she didn't get a chance to see me go through my whole career. But when 1994 rolled around, when it's time for Perry Williams to pack his bag and get on his horse and go on back down south, I was able to meet Mr. Mara, Wellington Mara, shake his hand with my head up. I said, "I gave you my best, sir." And that's where it will happen. That's really the way it happened with me. Mr. Mara was a great man, the family. Tisch came in my last couple of years, did some great things for me. But I tell you, I gave him an honest day's work. I never cheated him. I never gave up. I never quit on him. I never embarrassed the organization. I never embarrassed myself. And that's called discipline. Do the right thing. Now, do I have my fun in New York City? I ain't gonna lie to you. I had my little fun going to China Club and hanging out a little bit back in the day. I ain't gonna lie to you. Tell the truth, shame the devil. No lie can live forever. I had my moments. It's the difference between being crazy and stupid. And so I did what I had to do, ladies and gentlemen. I willed my way. I worked hard. I did the little things. I was happy, and I'm happy. So now I can come through New York. When I'm up here, if I'm working up here, obviously at Long Island University, if I'm in Brooklyn at the other campus, I can walk around with my head high because I know I gave New York my best. I gave you everything I had. I didn't leave no stones unturned. I made sure that I gave you my best. And that's all you can do, is give you your best. Motivation. We end up, so we do a little Q&A for ourselves. Motivation. Some people say motivated for a day. Then I saw others who can say motivated for a week or so. I've met quite a few who can say motivated for a month. But true winners will stay motivated for as long as it takes. For as long as it takes. You tell your children or your grandchildren, who you may have, or great-grandchildren, today when you go home, that you met the man today. They call him the madman, the make a difference man. That's my nickname, the make a difference man. And tell your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids, whatever, niece and nephew, whoever, tell a young person, if you can fly, fly. If you cannot fly, run. If you cannot run, walk. If you cannot walk, crawl. By all means, keep moving. Never give up. Thank you very much.
So you spoke a lot about motivation and you spoke about inspiration, and you were obviously very motivated in your life and in your career. But it sounds like from a young age, who inspired that motivation from such a young age?
Oh, my grandmother.
Your grandmother.
My grandmother. She was instrumental in my life. Yeah, my grandmother. My mother, she was special. She stepped in when I had nowhere to go. I didn't say earlier. My mother divorced my father and got on a train. And I was 3 years old from Washington, D.C., with a baby in one hand and one suitcase in the other. And we went back to North Carolina to my grandmother's house. And that's how it happened. And then I've been on a mission ever since. And she would instill in me and talk to me and learn how to talk. Boy, you learn how to talk. She ain't never, for growing, I'll give you guys a little quick laugh. She never called me Perry. My name is Perry Lamar Williams. That's my middle name, Perry Lamar Williams. I thought growing up my name was Boy Fetch Williams because, down south, they don't say, the name. They say boy or girl, or there's, say, go get me this or retrieve this. She say, go, fetch. So for the longest time, I teased. She never called me Perry until I was 21 years old. I had just got drafted 22. I just got drafted by the Giants. She called me and said, congratulations. And I was like, who is this on the phone? Who is this? Boy, that's your grandma. She finally called me Perry. But she was a very, influence on me, big, gigantic influence. My mother was too. My mother's a hard-working woman. She retired. My mother retired early. She was 40 years old when I made it pro football. She was a young woman because she got married at 17 and had me at 18. So, but yeah, my grandmother, she was my big influencer. She was my way or the highway, son. You don't like it. You see that doorknob right there? Let the doorknob hit you with the good Lord split you. All that kind of stuff. She didn't play that mess. You go be disciplined. You go do what I tell you to do, or else you find you somewhere else to stay. Where I'm going to go? I got no food. I got nowhere to stay. And I'm in the country. You ain't going to sleep in the woods, especially if it's cold. So you do what you're supposed to do. That's why I try to tell these parents, and I tell these men and women, grandmas, grandpas, whoever it is, aunt and uncle, discipline the child. Make them do it. Make them do the right thing. If you do the right thing, then you might have a chance to be something and go somewhere someday. And that's the most important thing, getting them ready.
Two-time Super Bowl winner, Perry Williams.
You can talk about football if you want to talk about football. I had my mask today, so I was feeling pretty good today. I got my mask. And the other day, I put a bag on the other week, so over my head.
Sure, go ahead.
Perry, you worked with some pretty successful coaches, Parcells and Belichick. Can you give us a little insight into how they kept your successful teams together? Or was it more like on-field leadership of some players?
Yeah, it was more a combination of both. Bill Belichick is like a genius of football. It's no secret. He didn't demonstrate it last night, though. Tom Brady. Tom Brady had a little something for him. But Bill Belichick he's a mastermind. He was great. Bill Parcells, he was a great coach. He was a holler and screamer and yeah, and all that. But we had players with great character. We had the George Morton and Harry Carsons, and crazy as the LT was. I don't want to get into all those stories with him, but we had a few stories. You guys already know a lot of the stories anyway. So just a combination of the guys and the coaches wanting to do it, coming together as a team, as a unit. And we had a lot of success together with that. If I had to pick one man to start a football team with me right now, if I was an owner, if I had that in that kind of position, one man I would pick first. His name is Mark Bavaro, number 89, tight end. Toughest man I ever seen. He was even tougher than LT, but he was a quiet man. A lot of them call him, you saw the movie, Rambo? And he was a Rambo of football. He was a dynamic player, great player, and I have the utmost respect for him. One of my brothers from another mother, but we still brothers. And but I would start with him, greatness. Yeah.
In your opinion, what was the most successful team with the least amount of talent?
Successful team with least. I think our second Super Bowl team wasn't as strong as the first Super Bowl team. I'll just use us as an analogy, as an example. Now the Giants, we had a strong team. That 86, 87, we were monsters. This guy, they was coming out there. And we did well in the second Super Bowl, and we had Scott Norwood wide right. I still owe him a thank you letter for missing that field goal. But I hadn't got quite to writing it yet, but I'm on my way to write it someday. But, yes, the Tyler 90 team, we was able to get away with that one. And thank God I got the extra ring on top of that. So I asked God to give me one ring. I'll be glad to play in one Super Bowl. I was blessed to get 2 Super Bowls. So what a wonderful experience and what a wonderful feeling. But the other thing is, that I didn't mention was my calling. My calling, I wanted to get out of football, and I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a land baron. I own some property. It's no secret. Back in North Carolina, I do a few things, but that was my calling. I got a calling to work with young people. And when I was trying to be a businessman, and I was trying to, put on a little sport coat and go to little meetings and all that, trying to wheel and deal, my tires are spinning. I couldn't get no traction. And I realized and I understand. Then that voice came to my house. I'm not going to get into the spiritual thing here too much, but I say this. Voice came to me and said, I told you to go with the young people. Don't worry about all that. You do this. And I answered to the bell, if you will, in 1995. And I started my Perry Williams mentoring program, the Mad Make a Difference program, the FF1, the Focus from Day One initiative, and Leadership Today initiative. So that's what I said. For the last 30 years, 40 major cities, 3 million kids, and still on the move. Got to buy me some new shoes because I'm wearing them out. So got to keep getting it. Anything else? Anybody else? Well, I want to say thank you very much for coming. I know it's been all day, and I know you're ready to go in and get your snooze on and get your little nap before you have your dinner. But I want to say thank you for your time and effort. If you see old SUV from North Carolina license plate, then you know it's Perry Williams. Just leave him alone. Hey, that's Perry. Just leave him alone. All right, guys.
Thank you.